Okay, so a little introduction into discourse communities. You may or may not have run into this term before. It really depends on what kind of English program you came out of, whether they were talking just literature or literature and creative writing, or whether they had rhetoric and composition, or writing studies, as some people call it, as part of their criteria for you to take courses. So, in case this is brand new, little introduction. So a discourse community is a community that forms around, well, any number of things, frankly. Sorry, it's kind of a huge definition. But it's a community of reading and writing, a community of communication that forms around something. So the example I gave in the course shell was the medical community. You know, they have their own method of communicating with each other. They have jargon or lexis. You know, there are these different elements that go into a discourse community. So I'm going to give you a second one, because you can read the other one. Fan fiction. So a fan fiction community will form around a specific fandom. So I'm going to use Disney's Encanto for an example, because I've heard a lot about it. So they released the movie. It garners a rather large fan following. The fans come to fanfiction.net because they want more stories. So the community has to have a goal. What is the goal here? They want more stories about Encanto. Maybe they want to add on, maybe they want to change something that's in the movie because they didn't like the way it turned out. Maybe there's a specific character they wanted to see more of, so they write characters about, or stories about that character. But whatever it is, they want more. So they have a goal that they all agree on, and then they start writing their fan fiction, and the readers come and read it, and they may or may not be fellow writers, but the community is forming. Then there's a fan fiction community lexis, or jargon around the community. So if you've ever read fan fiction, it's becoming increasingly popular, then you know some of these terms already. AU, it's an alternate universe. Slash or fem slash, they're telling you about the sexual orientation of the characters. Hurt comfort, that's a specific subgenre of story. The website fanfiction.net itself gives you genres to choose from when you post the story, and it shows up under each story, so you know if it's a romance, if it's supernatural, if it's mystery, if it's horror. So that kind of jargon that was just brought in from the fiction world itself. So any number of things, and then you have like fandom specific ones. I remember from the Harry Potter fandom, you know, they invented, which version of Harry is it? Angry, exclamation point, Harry. All is one word. It's Angry Harry. Which Harry is it? So these little pieces of jargon show up and are formed by the community at large, like the AU, alternate universe, or even specific ones inside a fandom. And you're going to see that in discourse communities. There has to be a way for the people to interact with each other and give each other feedback. Well, fanfiction.net would be a good example of that. They post the stories, there are reviews, and the website also allows for private messages. So there is a way for the community to interact, and they also have forums on top of that. Plenty of ways for the community to interact with each other. You have to have a certain number of people in it, and then you have to have experts and novices. So you have expert fan fiction writers who've been writing fiction for a long time. You have the novices who maybe have never written a story before, but they just love Encanto, for example, so much that they decide to post one. And the reviewers are the same way. Maybe they've been reading fan fiction for years, or maybe they just arrived and they've never read fan fiction before, but they're so in love with this movie or TV show or novel or whatever it is, that they just gotta have more. So you're going to be reading John Swale's article, and he's going to give you all the criteria. So just start thinking to yourself, you know, pick an example. Any major and all the careers that come out of all of those majors, each career has its own discourse community. Other things, sports, there are discourse communities around sports. Anything that you can look at around the world, you can probably find a discourse community formed around it, where people communicate, and then they have formed this whole community of how to communicate about what and in what way. So, there you go. Basic introduction into discourse communities.